Atha Yoga Sasanam. And now, yoga. This will be a part of the dissertation. I got caught up, y'all, talking about death. Me and death have a particular relationship. Yeah. Just being the way my life was. This will be more of a summary catch-up episode for those who want to skip the early years and the scripture because that's not your thing, or so you think. This will be more towards you, but also for the others too, so you can understand how I got to where I went. You know, I like to go to the Renaissance Festival actually, because when I'm out there, I get to walk around and be myself. People think I'm being a character. No, I get to really be me. Just walk around and enjoy myself, because no one thinks nothing of nothing whenever you have white and black on and you look all crazy and you have the staff. You're just a character that walking around out there. Who are you supposed to be? I'm the priest of ashes. Do. I appreciate being out there and having spaces like that so that I can go around and, you know, play and be myself fully. And no one will think nothing. They're like, oh, this is like a mystical, magical land and stuff. You know what I mean? And fairies walk around and all kinds of stuff. I didn't know about this when I was younger. I got brought out there by one of my students while going through a series of events. As everyone does, there's, you know, chain lines that you must go through to progress. This is how life goes if we're honest about it. But I fell in love with the place, and I actually have a family out there. I have my fair fam. You know, they're peeps. So this will also be for you all. You'll kind of get where the Priest of Ashes comes from. Yeah. So let's go ahead and go back. Let me recap real quick for everyone so I can catch you all up. I was born to two people inside of one of the churches of Christ, many in the world. I lived across the street from the church. My father's father was a preacher. My mother and my father were both singers, and they met. My grandmother was Native American. I grew up with her, really close to her. Life was great. I grew vegetables and cooked and everything, you know. I didn't like doing homework. If I didn't get math questions right, I would get smacked in my hand by my uncle to draw my attention and focus back in. So it was more of a traditional time. He was a martial artist, so he understood discipline. It was appropriate. I didn't like it back then, but I get it now. So I'm not mad about it. My grandmother passed. And while we were going to church before she passed, they had been reading scriptures like, you can do what I can do. You can do greater things, for I go to the Father. I'm like, I want to know this Father. I was like 4, 5, 6, right? Extremely hardcore devoted. Like childlike faith is a hardcore devotion. But all children must grow up. No one likes seeing a 40-year-old man going around dressing like he's still 20 and then trying to speak all like the slang and lingo and stuff. Like, dude, come on, dude. Grow up some, man. Man up. You don't gotta be like that. So the same thing happens in the spiritual effect, but we're not given spiritual knowledge, or more so our spiritual knowledge is fractured. As I sat there and I looked inside the teachings, I'm like, all this violence and war and death and all this stuff. I don't know. I don't know about this dude. I don't know. And then, like, my grandma's funeral came and everyone was crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? She's supposed to be going to heaven with Jesus. You know, I'm like 8. I'm like, what's wrong with y'all? This is supposed to be a happy day, right? Y'all sing hymns and prayers for you. You can't wait to go back and be with Jesus, but now someone's back with Jesus and everyone's crying. I'm confused. 8-year-old me, I decided I would not cry for my grandmother on her funeral. And I did remember, I said inside one of the early videos in Dissertation, I didn't see my grandma, but I do have a distinct memory. My mom talked about it. She's like, no, I did. You argued with it over and over again, and you got really afraid you weren't going to see her. And then your uncles, our old uncles, because I was raised by my elders, they're like, let him see her, or he wants to see her for a reason. And I did. And I went in there and talked to her and squeezed her hand and said goodbye, basically. Yeah. I looked at her. You could see that she wasn't going to come back, even though a child can see that. But everyone deserves their time to say goodbye to someone. Don't deny them that, especially if they love them. So, yeah, me and what these people were worshiping, it was what I was singing versus what I was hearing. The answers weren't complete. You can go back to the older videos and you'll see that. We moved to another state. When I was a kid, it was hard for me to get along with other kids because I was smart. Like when I was 3, I had a head start. I would sit there and everyone else was like running with their food and stuff. And I would sit down and put a napkin in my shirt. And then I would go ahead and be like, eat my lunch. Open my lunch box up, take my napkin down, take my chips out, take my sandwich out, eat my sandwich while I'm sitting at the table with a napkin in my shirt and just do. Everyone else is going crazy around me. I didn't know what their problem was. It was time to eat. I don't know. It's weird. My mom walked in to see me one day during my lunchtime, and she saw me just sitting there. And my teacher was like, is that normal? And she's like, oh, baby, he's an old soul. He's been here before. He's okay. I got called an old soul a lot when I was young. I didn't get along. I tried to be friends with like all the kids at first, everyone. This is before we learned racism. But my uncle gave me money to go to school with, and I bought pencils. I tried to sell people with pencils. And I was doing the businessman thing when I was 4. Dude, yeah, I was trying to make some money. 4. 25 cents was a lot, bro. So, I know your parents give you money, or your lunch money, you need a pencil. That was young me's attitude in type of way. But I was trying to make friends, tried to talk. And I realized I couldn't really talk right to everyone. Whatever I was saying was coming out my mouth, they weren't making sense of it. So I became introverted and introspective. And I just watched and observed everything. If I didn't like you, you'd know because I'm quiet. I don't speak at all. I didn't speak at all when I was around you. And now I'd disappear behind other people. So having friends is hard. And then as you get older and everyone starts breaking down into your culture base, your race is. That's right. I had to put my filters back on for this. Give me a second. All right. Sorry about that. The use of affirmations and the ability to use affirmation to put on and take off a thing is a thing. So for me to be able to communicate my ashes, my journey, the things I had to burn up, I have to put them back on. Black kids didn't really get along with me. Not at all. That's always a thing. I don't know why. I tried to talk to them. I talked too proper. I talked too white. That was a thing. Cool. And all the white people that I hung out with, everyone's low-key starting to learn about racism. Even when I was a teenager, it was still the same. whenever things changed. It'd always be me and a girl were talking. Just having a good time. And like, oh, I'd like to date you. And they're like, nah, can't do that. You know, we had this whole thing, we're on this whole other level, but like, and literally, we'd be like doing astral projections together, going to planets and stuff. And like, I had a whole group. We're gonna get to that. That's some good stuff. But at the end of the road, it'd be like, but you're black. My family wouldn't understand. Pretty much the same thing with everyone, like Latinas, all of them. There's just ultimate rejection all the time. We go back to, there's a bad thing that happened. You know, the world kind of went loopy for me. And it wasn't nothing as bad as other things that I've caught other people experiencing, but it was enough for me to say, I don't want to be on this planet anymore. I want to die. I was like 10. So I went and I opened my Bible, actually. And I was literally opened it to Matthew 6. And I was reading through Matthew 6. And it said, go into your closet, shut the door, and pray to your Father in secret. He will reward you openly. I'm going to go die. That was my intent. My intent. So I went to the closet and I closed the door. Stuffed it with nothing underneath it. Laid down in the closet. Come 10. I can fit in the closet. So I was breathing in real deep. Slow and deep. And I started getting lightheaded. And then I was like, all right. I was sitting there and I heard my heart start beating. Cool. And then all of a sudden, my nervous system in my back, it was like a pulsation going boom from the bottom to the top. Boom. Like it was, I'm telling you the sound, like it was like what it was making to me. And I heard it inside my head. And all of a sudden I seen this white light and a black on the inside and darkness everywhere else. And I was like, it's a sun. It's the black sun. That's what my brain was like, on the black sun. What is this? And then I was like, the image like shattered. I was like standing there looking at a mirror of me, and the image shattered in the mirror, which was my mind. And I picked it up and it didn't reflect all the pieces that were me again. And I was so frantically trying to put my mirror back together inside my sadness to be like, I know. And so there I was trying to put these pieces that didn't fit back together, and I didn't know where they were. I knew this is going to take a long time to organize. Whew. After that, I lost one form of love to me, misunderstanding my child's self's nature, being very sensitive. You know, I was extremely sensitive as a kid. I went to school and I had friends, and they were the cool kids. I was a nerd. I used to wear glasses. I had the hot knee-high socks, which ironically I'm looking for some more because I wear long boots. I need knee-high socks. I wore the khakis and had like the polos, the little school uniforms. I was in a club called the Distinguished Gentlemen, which is like the future leaders of America. They see the potential in you. You have great, we're going to train you. You had to wear a white shirt and black slacks and a tie every Thursday. Well, I got bullied a lot, no doubt. And you start to incur marks, traumas inside yourself. Negative things that other people are putting onto you for you not being what they expect you to be. But I did like this one girl. She was a Latina girl. She was captain of the step team. And me and one of the cool guys, friends, that we had a class with her together. And I had messed up. I had this thought I shouldn't, but I told them that I liked her. my friends, I wanted to earn their trust more. Next thing I know, my teacher needed to go make copies. Teachers need to make copies sometimes. They walk out. We're 10. What are we going to get into? Well, the dude starts shooting spitballs at me. Hitting me. I'm like, stop. Constantly saying stop. And then all of a sudden, this secret love that I had for this person, because I knew I was a nerd. I'm no one. They're captain of the step team. I'm just this little nerd dude over here. I'm no one. I'm just a distinguished gentleman. This is like the most nerdy stuff around. We're supposed to be the future leaders. This is nerdy. What? There's no chance for me to get with her, right? That's young me. Of course. Yeah, I was an introvert. I had no confidence about myself. Well, he kept on going, and then next thing you know, he was like, Alex like so-and-so, Alex like so-and-so, Alex and so-and-so, kissing in a tree, Kissing. And yes, she was sitting up there, and I could see her turning red, and I sat there, and I was like, stop, shut up, please, shut up, because he was ruining my secret love affair. And then I was like, that's enough, ring out inside of me, and I just picked my desk up and threw it at him. It was one of those little kid desks. It wasn't like one of the super big ones yet. It was still like a medium size, It was like 4th grade or something like that. I don't know. And it hit him in the leg and he fell down. And I was like, yeah, that felt good. Yeah, that felt good. And it hit him in the leg and he's like Peter Griffin. Oh man, hilarious. Well, she ran over there to him. And she turned and she looked at me with this fury in her eyes. And she was like, Alex, you're fat and ugly and no one will ever love you. And like, given what had just happened before, like inside of my life, and seeing the black sun, which I came to find out is the spiritual eye, and that whole experience, and then having her, she like said that, and love was an issue at that point. It pushed my kilter. All of a sudden I heard like a clicking in the back of my head. My reptilian brain had become active. And yes, everyone has a reptilian brain. You have your reptilian brain, you have the mammalian brain, then you have your neocortex. These are actually important structures, and they do literally do things inside of you in your temple. This is a thing. Okay, the cherubims are here, the ark of the testimony is here, and then you have the mercy seat right here, and on top of that is the pineal gland. Okay, this is all internal structures as well that you should understand. I picked the desk up and I locked in on her temples, and like the most sorrowful anger and pain that I felt. Like, you all made me do this. Why? Why couldn't you just be a good person? It was like, what did I ever do to deserve this? That's enough. I picked the desk up and I went to go throw it, and it disappeared behind me. My teacher had returned. She told me to go sit down, so I did. Picked the desk up and sat there. I didn't act, but the instinct inside of me to harm was there. I terrified myself in the end. I decided, you don't do that. Only if the person's a combatant. If it's a female combatant, then whatever. You stepped into the world of war. But I shouldn't lose myself in anger, even if I do care deeply about a person and they don't know it. Or if they do know it, still, I shouldn't get like that. I terrified myself with that, and it hurt really bad. So I went into my closet, closed the door, sat down to meditate, went to that shadow realm place with the mist and everything that people run from in their dreams. And it was about that same time that I was like, that's enough running from you. I can't do anything outside of me. I will do this inside of me. So I turned into a beast. That same clicking sound came out of me. I turned into a beast, and I fought back the shadow thingy. It's like the thing from It, but it was like weird. It had like the head of the thing from Silent Hill, but it was all lanky, and it was, so I broke it, and then I consumed it, And then I started running through that area as a beast, as Manalik Sul, essentially. So there I am. I ran on the shadow plane whenever I would get hurt for a long time. And I went and seen all the different sights and splendors and everything like that as a beast before I gained consciousness of being even more aware there. And like, there's, it was very primal, basic, what's this, what's that. And I was just running out and mapping out the lands. So I come back. And now I'm starting to rebel against everything. I'm taking my shirt off. My grades are dropping. I don't care. My main thing was meditating. Meditating, and going to that place and running. Just wanting to be free. Away from everything. I'm sure people can relate to this. I wouldn't share it if you can't relate to it. Wasn't accepted by anyone. No one I could talk to with all this stuff. Then we moved. I got to my middle school, and there I met my friends. And amongst my friends, I met some people that were saying they were Wicca. This is how I got into Wicca. Because the things that they were talking about were like the things that I was seeing whenever I was doing my thing. And so it was like I was reaching out. I was able to reach out with them and learn more about what this experience was that was going on inside of me. Because, I didn't practice what they practiced necessarily, but I was doing something, and they were similar enough to me that I might be able to glean some information off of them. I needed to know something. Well, even amongst that stuff, I was like, you can't pray to Odin, dude. You're black. Oh, damn. And the people that were doing like the Mexican stuff, they had their own thing. I knew nothing about Native American stuff. I am Native American, but I knew the Great Spirit and but nothing about their gods, who they saw. So, being that I was labeled black, I decided the place to go for my pantheon was Egypt. When you're doing magic, kids or the Wicca stuff, everyone starts to get to a point where you develop enough to where you take on a patron deity. And the patron deity is technically a person that's supposed to you're venerating them so that you can learn more on the path that you want to take and that you're seeking. And they'll be like a guide to you inside of their ways of this, through studying them and their actions. Now, mind you, Psalms 82 says, God, the big Elohim, stands in the congregation of the mighty. He judges among gods. Little g, little Elohim. So these gods of old times that are venerated were beings that made it back to the infinite one and fully evolved themselves into their purpose, and they became the next level that we are all to become. Inside one way, it's not that necessarily they're perfect inside that level as the ultimate final stage of all things is that moves before to the next one, but they're working and they're showing they're having they're having spiritual things that were popping up for them as the gods. They had siddhis, as the yogis would call them, gifts that they could do. Being that I was depressed and all I thought of was death all the time, I decided Anubis would be my patron deity. People think that he's the god of death. No, I thought he was the god of death, and I'm like, why do you keep on walking me to this temple? What do you, you're walking me to this place, bro. I'd be sitting there meditating, and of course, you have to learn to control your tempo and build your thoughts and everything, and you have the outside visuals already to help you. So there he was inside there. The mummy had just came out too at the time. So, they had the Nubian jackal dudes. I was like, that's Anubis right there. Yep. Want those guys. If I want to get those guys and learn how to use those guys in this world as my peoples, I got to study this dude. So, study this dude. It was something to do. I was lost and no one would accept me anywhere that I went. I feel like I was constantly rejected by everyone. Even like now that we're starting to get into the Wicca and the using the 5 elemental spirits and all this stuff like that, and we're rising up inside my consciousness. We're not being like the little bitty baby. I'm just taking baby steps of going in and doing the shadow work that's necessary to go up to the next level. You have to work your shadow work. And when you're a kid, it's easier for you to do as a kid, but like kids will start having visions and stuff like that, and they'll tell people about it. And the next thing you know, they're labeling you as crazy and they're putting you on like all these pills, and then the pills scatter you even more. So that's how people start handling that. They're trying to stop the awakening of the shamans inside this area that deathly needs like shamans and stuff, like spiritual people to help out, that understand the greater law of how all things go together. The medications kept them down. So being sad and depressed all the time, feeling dissatisfied with everything, my state of dysphoria, I walked with Anubis. He didn't say much, but Anubis, he did talk every now and then. Very solemn character. He doesn't speak much, and he says what he needs to say, and then he continues on about his way. That's just Anubis. Like, and he was like, you can't venerate me. I'm not someone to be venerated. You do not venerate me. I am not someone to be venerated. I kept on trying to be like, no, but he's like, you cannot praise me. I am not someone to be venerated. I am the person that comes when death comes for a person. If you are sad and alone, I'm the one that shows up and walks you to the next world. If it's your first time living inside that level and you don't know the path to get to the place where you do your life review, I'm the one that comes and takes you there. You are in great pain. You want to be here. You want to venerate me. Don't venerate me. I will show you what you venerate. And so he took me to a temple. Kind of like Great Pyramid-ish. But I don't know. But it was the night. I was walking through the sand. And stars were in the sky. And I was walking with Anubis. He took me before, I guess it was an altar. And the altar had once again, it had that black, the symbol, the black here, then the black on the inside, white on the outside. But then all of a sudden, the symbol was there and it grew. The spiritual eye grew to be like a whole light. And like that thing in the middle was like a pupil. And then it got covered up completely. And that's when I realized it was a sun. That's why I call it the black sun. I'm like, what is this image I keep on seeing? Well, it was a full ball of light that went from being like a black thing in the core to being like this. And boom. And when you have a sunspot, the sun has like black there. If you go to Sam Harriman's physics, he talks about everything being black holes in the unified field theory. So all this led me to be like, this is what you venerate. The oldest of old, the things of all things. And I was like, what the hell is he talking about? And I was like, a tomb. I'd heard about a tomb before. A tomb is the being that supposedly started all things for the Egyptians. But then it's not just a tomb inside the Egyptians. At that point, I'm like, should I really venerate this thing? I knew this was kind of crazy. So I went and I looked. And my instinct told me, look up all the other ones to see what their pantheons are. To the Greeks and the Romans, it is called chaos. To the Shinto, it is Amen. Amen Om. Oh yeah. Amen Om Ina Kanushi. Amen Om Ina Kanushi. You have to separate it out. Amen Om. Amen O-M. Amen Om Ina. I think Ina means first, and Kanuski is like first spirit, the great first spirit. Like, okay, check out what I'm putting down. The Norse, they talk about before when time started. So they don't talk about before time starts, but when time started, there was a world of mist and a world of raging fire separated by the primordial void. The void disappeared and the two mixed. And from there, Ymir came, the first of the Jotuns. and so on and so forth, and you had that's your gods. While everyone else was picking their patron deity, and they were showing them, oh yeah, Thor did this, and Tyr did this, and this was this, and this was that, blah, blah. I was sitting here like, I don't belong anywhere. And I was like, well, you don't belong inside any of these things. You can't venerate me. Venerate this. The oldest of old. The Great Spirit is what the Native Americans call it. Shiva means he who is not. The void pulled itself out. He is not, to allow creation to form. Inside of the Acts says, I see you venerate all these gods around you. And he was like, Paul, I see you venerating all these gods around you. Let me tell you about the unknown God. And he, all caps, unknown gods. Acts 17:23. He that made the Lord that made the heavens and earth and all things where therein dwells not in temples made with hands. Nor does he ask anything from men that you can give him anything, seeing that he made it all things. That honor only your Father. You have only one Father, and he is in heaven. Heaven is with the kingdom of heaven's inside you. So I'm sitting down meditating. I'm inside myself. I'm seeing this orb that's the sun. Like literally, it's a sun, but it was black in the middle, but then it became like an iris, like inside like outer space. And that's the basis for like when you see me drawing my things of like Merrick and all of them, and like the nameless, his eyes are black. Like the sclera is black, and then his middle thing is white. It has designs on the side of it, and he has like other things coming in here on the side. Like he looks wicked, like his eyes, like he can take on multi-arm form and all types of stuff. The nameless master of myself is whoa. But I didn't understand all this stuff until like it had to all come together. I had to live the story. I had to do the shadow work for me to get to where I could understand it. And I had to go outside myself and get all the wisdom of it. So that is the being that unifies everything. It's the causeless cause. I've been venerating that the whole time. The Father, as people would call it. But it doesn't have male or female. That's why inside the Gnostic text, they break down that there's the texts that are removed from the Bible because the church wants to have control over people. They break down that there's a Father, and the Father separated himself out, and then he made Barbelo or whatever. Everyone has a breakdown. And there's a creation of the spirit chain that's not talked about from whenever the Lord spoke and started a vibration within the ethers. So, where you may think I'm bringing up all these things and I'm speaking outside of things, I've done this work inside of myself. Venerate only the one, the infinite creator. This is going to be a little bit longer. I just wanted to get through the veneration of the one in my patron deity and how the one I chose to venerate, Death, he's a friend that walks amongst everything, since I was just covering death inside my dissertation. I wanted to read to you from The Children of the Law of One and the Lost Teachings of Atlantis. I think there's actually a book giveaway going on with this. Let me give you their teachings. When I read this all instinctively makes sense to me because I've already put together so many things. After that, everything that hurt, I gave it to that thing. Every part of myself that I didn't like, I burned it. I turned it to ashes. The fact that I'm born inside this body and this body's color is black, that doesn't make that me. I'm not this body. I burned the body away and gained the filter of the body of, oh yeah, you gotta remember, you are a black person. Just because I'm a man inside this form doesn't mean my soul hasn't been women inside the past forms. I fought so hard against like the thought of, oh, I'm such a macho man. I don't have no women times. I've lived as a woman. And then I find out my sixth eye, my third eye, that this area, the avatar for that inside of myself is a woman. I've lived as a woman. So it's not a woman. Like, I burned that idea of, because the mind that we all share minds, so no one's over another. It just depends on how much you've cultivated your mind. How much are you fertilizing and putting the necessary things in your head for wisdom to grow within you? I'm trying to give you wisdom, or what I've experienced, and maybe, hopefully for some of you, it's gonna like pick the things up. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna get this. I burn things, the things that hurt, and the things I no longer want. I take it to the altar, and I do the sacrifice, which is the burning of your carnal self, your lower self, into ashes. That's the sacrifice you put on the altar. Psalms 46, you've opened my ears. Burnt offering and sin offering did you not require. Acts 17:25 tells you can't give him anything anyway, because he made all things, so you can't give it anything. The only thing that you can give it is you. You have to burn up your lower self, your animal desires. You get rid of that. And I still have some of them that are there. But there's basic things I like doing as a vacationer. And it keeps me from, if I have to go all the way into it, I know the path to do it, you know? But I'm just at like a cool little medium spot where I can talk to people about things, let you get to know me. Let me go ahead and go over this. You're going to love this. Redefining God and love. First, let me cover some important ground things that I learned in my earliest days at the monastery that will give you a frame of reference. So before we delve deeper into the teachings, let's clarify the meanings of a couple of words/concepts that will be used a great deal in this book. Okay, you got to read A Stranger in a Strange Land, and you'll get the Martian thought pattern. It's kind of a Martian thought way, or a Children of the Law or the Law of One by Raw Material. They're not the same type of Law of One people, but the Law of One is the Law of One. So but it's a different aspect in thinking. You think differently when you're doing this. God and love, in a different way than you may have heard them used before. Both terms and concepts can mean many different things to many different people. Love. In the first days and months at the monastery, I attended courses given by elder monks, and one of my world human concept and terminology courses, which was given by the elder monk Raga, we began covering the teachings of the various types of emotions that people often lump together and call love. Love can mean sex. We made love. Love can mean you really like something. I love my new car. Love can mean the pleasure or thrill you get from someone you have a romantic relationship with. I love nada. Or love can mean compassion, kindness, caring, giving, sharing. That's kind of the love that brings true happiness, inner peace. It's the kind of love we all really need and need to give. It's also the kind of love that would make the world a far better place. So if we wish to focus on developing this kind of love, we must clearly delineate it and give it name. Thus, we call it unselfish love, because it is what it is. God. Raga went on to define various ways that people of the world see and understand God. God is a very abstract and difficult thing for a human mind to fathom. To paraphrase the ancient teaching, the God I am talking about cannot be talked about. It means that God is really impossible to explain or truly understand intellectually. But with that in mind, I will endeavor to explain the unexplainable. The big guy in the sky concept of God. And this is what most people have, the big guy in the sky concept of God. People have often personalized, or humanized the concept of God. But you got to remember, God is not human. You cannot limit it. It is all things. It is everywhere. It's inside the stone. It's inside the trees. Remember that we all are brothers, all people, and beasts and trees and stone and wind. We are all descended from one great being that was always there before people lived and named it. That's from Hailong, opening ceremony, Lifa. Whether consciously or subconsciously, many people think of God as having a human-like appearance, a great big man with long silver hair and beard that lives somewhere out there beyond the sky in heaven. That has always bothered me. Why do people think of God that way? I said. There are several reasons people think of God in this way. Partly, it is due to how hard it is to grasp such an infinite and abstract concept as God. But unfortunately, sometimes the human idea of God was deliberately fostered as one, a means to gain wealth and power over the masses. Two, a means to justify cruelty or horrible things of men, the things some men wanted to do, like war. Three, a means of propagating sexism. Or four, all of the above. Unfortunately, with that kind of human-like constellation of God also comes assigning human-like personality traits to God, and some of them are the very human-like negative personality traits such as anger, jealousy, and vengefulness. The followers of many different religions have their own personalized version of a humanized God. Some versions of God have similarly personality traits, but there are various differences. Subsequently, the rules the people believe he has given for us to obey are sometimes similar and sometimes very different. Is that a problem though? Why can't people have all their own ideas of God if it makes them happy or fits into their culture, I asked. They can. They're welcome to it. We don't care about the name of God or idea of God they believe in. If it helps them become better people, better, kinder people, that's our only concern. But think about it. People will even go to war because their personalized version of God is different than someone else's. And of course, each side in the war always believes God is on their side. It's true. Everyone's always saying, like they'll be like, oh, Allah's on our side. Oh, God's on our side. And like God made all things. He's not going to choose a side, people. We're children. Get along. What the hell? Understanding the universality and oneness of God eliminates this and many other tragic acts. You who will be teachers in various parts of the world will be confronted with this constantly, and you need to understand the various concepts of personalized gods in order for you to reveal that there is more to God that goes beyond what they think. Many things about various personalized gods just don't make sense. This includes both the things God does and the things God does not do or allows. For instance, animal and innocent children are suffering on this planet. Why? If you accept the human-like version of God, why doesn't he put a stop to this? Many people have limited views of God, can understand this when you explain it to them, as long as they have the slightest open mind and the Spirit of God is present in you when you explain it to them. Now let's consider God in a different, unhumanized way. Good God. The children of the law of one teach that God is all and includes all. It is the one. This includes the many. It is within us, without us, and we are individual parts of the whole of it. While many religions have similar to identical concepts as the one God in their scripture, they may still use the idea that their God is different from the others as a reason for war or killing. One of the problems is that while many religions do teach God is one, is all things, is everywhere, etc., they still propagate the concept of a human-like God in the sky, and thus religion's followers still seem to think of God that way. They also sometimes teach that it is only their religion that has the one God, rather than that God is the oneness of all. But some religions don't teach that, do they? Even if the religion isn't propagating the humanized God concept, people still usually think that way. I will explain why in a moment, but first let's look at the consequences of thinking of God in a humanized fashion, regardless as to why they do. Unfortunately, the humanized God idea naturally leads to thinking of God as an individual of sorts. Then a person's or a religion's God can be given all kinds of personal traits that either the individual or the religion wants God to have in order to justify their human behavior. But with that whole idea goes against the God is everywhere and everything concept, because if God is thought of as an individual, it also leaves us with the impression that he is separate from us in the universe. But if there is one God which is all and is everywhere at all times, etc., because omniscience, omnipresence, all the powers of God, it can't be separate from us or the universe, so it can't be an individual in any normal interpretation or of the word other than if you consider everything in the universe, the entirety of the universe itself, as one universe in some sense, then as an individual. So God is an individual also? In some sense, let's contemplate that for a moment. We know the universe is one huge, probably infinite something that is everywhere and everything. All existence as we know it, etc. Even our bodies are comprised of stardust, the stuff of the universe. And for me, my mind took it even another level forward than just a universe. Unai means one, verse means script or rhyme or rhythm or anything. And every man is a universe unto themselves. So you are one verse of the multiverse of the creator. There's a multiple verse. It's the sacred song of scriptures being sung that keep everything going. It's being hummed all the time that they say people venerate, well, the spirits venerate these things to keep them in existence. So the substrate will stay there so that everything stays in existence and it continues to play out. Even our bodies are composed of stardust, the stuff of the universe. Doesn't stand to reason then that the one God must also be the universe itself, and if that is so, and there is some sort of design, consciousness, and energy that pervades the entire universe, all of creation, wouldn't that be God's spirit and consciousness? Thus the consciousness of God is the consciousness of the universe, universal consciousness. Then it is this consciousness that is one and the same as God's, and thus the spirit of God, the life force that is all of creation, is the spirit of the universe, the universal spirit, or the great spirit that the Native Americans talked about. Once all humans had the consciousness of this oneness with the universal spirit, hence our tribes and the different rituals you used to do, because we would let the children start going through the spiritual journey and we wouldn't put them on medication. We would take them to a spiritual person that understands stuff, that's like learn things, a wise man, and the person would help them guide their way through to the infinite one. But we lost that. When they went through the dark ones figured it out and what they needed to do to cut us off. And the ones that, the dark ones, you all should know what I'm talking about by now. That's all out in the open. They are the ones that went through and destroyed all our roots and took away what we used to know. All the tribes of the world all across us. And thus, the Spirit of God, the life force that is all of creation, is the spirit of the universe, the universal spirit. Once all humans have the consciousness of their oneness with the universal spirit, and that is why you are here, to regain the universal consciousness and oneness with God. Then you will be lamps to help others regain their way also. So for clarity, in the majority of this book, God will often be referred to as the universal spirit, or sometimes as the one. If it helps clarify that when we are speaking of God, we are not referring to the big guy in the sky concept of God. But even though using the words universal spirit helps prevent the confusion with the humanized God concept, the term God would still be used from time to time throughout the book. When it is, just keep in mind what it means to us and go back to my course with Raga. To summarize, the children of the law of one teach that the universal spirit, rather than being an individual as we know it, is a multiplicity that is one. It compromises and is all things in the entire universe together as one. It is the beingness, energy, essence, the life force, and the everywhere and everything in the universe, including us, including nature, and including the universe itself. And it has a consciousness. Also included as part of the universal spirit and the oneness that is the universal spirit is a hierarchy of spiritual beings who exist on many different levels. You might think of them as angels, guardian angels, ascended masters, adepts, or saints who have passed on, etc. Being free from the limitations of physical life, they exist in spiritual form, and they share the same consciousness as the universal spirit, universal consciousness. They are consciously part of it, one within an aspect of the universal spirit. And that's why Thoth and Ra and all of them, they had these different lessons. All the gods, they had aspects of the universal creator. They were the aspects. You have to become your aspects to give, and you get to the universal creator and you get aspects and you start living as that, as a part of it, and you're flowing with the flow. You're there. Your spirit's awake and aware. Now you're doing more processes and practices. You get deeper into it to get to be the aspects. But this is to help you, that'll help you understand what I'm talking about. As I gave the whole base story, the background, you might think it's kind of crazy. No, I was doing things that I didn't know I was doing because I didn't remember the thoughts that I had when I was little, and I forgot it. I remembered it now, and it put everything back together. Because I had all the knowledge there. I did the inner work when I was a kid, most of the sages, right, the things like the Upanishads and stuff, they were 14, 15, 16, boy or girl. They didn't care enough about their name and their person. They just got lost in it. They were like, I don't care about my name or person. This is what it is. And they were writing things down to give to other people. That's what they would do. That's the spiritual tradition of them building themselves to get to being a sage. So they're giving you like their words of like what they see and how they like got the rights and all this stuff like that. You have to think about it with your mind expanded. You expand your mind and includes the myth and legends, because all this goes together and you're not understanding. Most people aren't understanding. You're limiting yourself and you're limiting the infinite creator. It's called infinite for a reason. Is that what people call? They share the same consciousness as universal spirit, universal consciousness. They are consciously part of it, one with an aspect of the universal spirit. Hierarchical beings thus act in harmony with the will of the universal spirit as if it were the arms or extensions of it. Yet they are somewhat related to us and thus close to us also. So there are links to the entirety of the universal spirit who can help guide us and have a certain influence in our lives. Because everyone has things to do. As long as you're connected with the one, you'll do the things you need to do, but it will also be fulfilling to you because you're having a journey and living out a part of its dream. We are a part of its dream. We are thoughts of the infinite one. We are ideas wrapped inside form. So we've gotten to me trying to venerate Anubis, and he said no, and he pointed me to the great light within the temple. And that's what I was told to venerate. And then after that happened, that's when I got to my inner temple from wandering the desert wasteland. So I was still in my inner temple. The first time I walked up on it actually was kind of before this. Never mind. Yeah, I had that backwards. I had the symbol with the 8-point star on the outside the gate. There was a raggedy cathedral run down. And that's what I went into for the first time. When I found it, when I was wandering around the world as a beast. And as I got to the gates, I started to turn into being a person. Because I was like, what is this? I've run the landscape all this time and I've never seen a structure. And by seeing a structure that was built by someone, that was all decayed and ragged, fallen down, I snapped back to being a person and took back on my human form instead of having to be inside of the beast mode in the lower astral realm that I was trapped in, dreaming and meditating, like weird, and it all kind of went together. Okay, so I'm giving you an explanation, a layout of the path of what I've been through, and I hope that you're finding this useful. This was a summary. We're going to continue going on with my life and the different lower lessons I learned and how it all builds back up into that grand lesson. I stood before the light and I did not know that I was before the light. All I knew was it told me inside my sorrow and my sullenness and my loss and my dysphoria to venerate all things, burn yourself up to that. Do that. And the Anubis told me that inside my meditations. Okay? So, I don't know. I couldn't necessarily be the other people's things. And everyone else, they still stayed like worshiping. But I was like, don't y'all know about the thing? Like, there's the thing. Like, they didn't know. I am the priest of ashes. I offer myself on the altar of fire to turn my carnal things to ash and wear the ashes of that man as my ego. I aspire to inspire you to live your highest ideal. And that's all that I require of everyone, is to be their best self. So wake up already.